Oh, crap. I can't say that.
Hi, I'm Benjamin.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And this is Beta Haus.Life, the podcast.
Yeah, and video.
And video.
It is both. We're recording two shows in one.
There you go.
With this. So
whatever format you enjoy the most, we are here for you.
Yeah, if you want to watch us on YouTube and get to see our faces and see where we are.
Yes.
That is there. And then also, with the podcast, where most podcasts are found.
Yeah, you can put us in your ears while you commute, or put us on your car speakers while you're on your way from A to B, and we're happy to take the journey with you.
Yep. And we will always be friendly, so that if you are listening to pick up your kids, you don't have to worry.
You don't have to worry about us. We're cool.
So
right?
Yeah, just it may not be interesting to a 5-year-old.
No,
but yeah,
we will not offend anyone's sensibilities at that point.
So just putting that out there right now, early in this, show, so that people will know what we are and who we are.
So if you want to talk about entrepreneurial things with your children, by all means, go for it.
Get them involved early.
Yep.
We got Jeremiah. I'm not going to do spoilers. That is on one of our talking points later.
We will get
is
to
about
that.
Melwood.
Yep.
So I will.
Well,
talk
and
about
that and we've had our children involved from very early ages.
Yeah.
So we'll get there.
The whole point of this episode, we're going to be telling the story of Beta Haus, and in doing that, it's going to be a lot of our history, because we've put a lot of ourselves into this, and you kind of need to know where we're coming from to understand how this whole thing came together. And I could start all the way back when we were born in 1978, but I think that's a little more of a deep dive than we needed.
11 days apart.
We'll just move on from that point and skip ahead a bit, The number of the counting shall be 3.
That's right.
Yeah, skip a bit. We'll go on to when we met, because we met in 1996. The world was a little bit different, but
way
it was
different.
The
kids,
literal,
if you're listening, ask your parents how 1996 was different.
Yeah, the literal first day of college we met.
Same freshman and orientation group.
And within 2 weeks, we were dating.
Yep.
We're one of those stories that, met at the very beginning of college, and then we're together, and
pack of Pringles and a peanut butter and jelly picnic. And
because that's what we could afford.
Yep, that's where we started.
And that was life. I mean, it was. We just went through, we did
Poor college
together.
Students.
Yeah. We got to enjoy that when, you're all excited to have $5 because, I can go. And, again, 1996 money in Eastern Tennessee. We could go to Wendy's and get a full value meal.
Or Taco Bell and find out they're out of meat.
Yeah, that happened there. Don't know how you're out of all meat, but the Elizabethton, Tennessee Taco Bell could do it.
Yep.
So
it's like having Dairy Queen and no
ice cream.
No ice cream.
Yeah, why are you open?
Why do you exist? Why are you open?
But we were in school in Eastern Tennessee. That was not home, though, for either of us. We are both from Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky.
I lived in Owensboro, Louisville, and Lexington, which, for those of you not familiar with Kentucky geography, which I'm going to guess is the bulk of the people listening to this, those are the 3 biggest cities in Kentucky.
And how do you pronounce the capital of Kentucky?
Frankfort.
That's right.
And Frankfort's between Louisville and Lexington. But
it's not Louisville, it's not Louisville.
Huge population difference though between Louisville and Owensboro. Owensboro is less than a tenth the size of Louisville. I mean, it's smaller than that. So that kind of gives you
and Louisville's
some
a third
scale.
of the size-ish of San Diego.
Yeah. So that kind of gives you some scale there for how quickly the population kind of drops off. But I grew up in all of those. You, though, pretty much were in Louisville the whole time, and suburbs.
Louisville, but we also, for most of my elementary career, we did move across the river to New Albany, Indiana. Great place to grow up, bike around town, go absolutely everywhere.
If you want to say you're a Hoosier.
There is nothing wrong with that. We have family who are Hoosiers.
I know, but if
You're
you had the
alienating your own
choice,
family.
I don't know why you would choose
Scott, we love you.
Okay, so we're not normally going to do hard cuts in this one, but I had to do a hard cut there because I actually said something that I wasn't allowed to give away.
Family news. It's nothing shocking.
So we're cutting that, even though I don't think any of them will be listening. I'm just going to be very mindful.
Our family loves us. They're all going to listen.
Yes. So, so that was the hard cut. So we love you, Hoosiers.
Yes, we do.
In your own way. And
you don't need to make up little caveats for it. We love the
bless
Hoosiers.
your heart.
Now, hey. All right, for those of you who aren't Southern by nature, man, you're just being harsh. Let's move on. I spent 4 years of my life proudly in Indiana. I made some great friends and grew up in a community where you could ride your bike around and go up to the ice cream shop. And
Owensboro was like that too.
Yeah.
And that's on the right side of the river.
I'm shaking my head, folks. I'm just shaking my head.
I just want to put it out there that you didn't have to live in Indiana to get
And you know what?
experience.
In San Diego, none of this makes any difference to anybody else.
Nope.
Moving on. So we both grew up in the northern central areas of Kentucky. And now we're here.
Yeah.
And things happened in between.
Yeah, a lot happened in between. So back to time in Tennessee. We married while we were still in college.
We had 1 semester left. We crammed 4 years of college into 3.5.
And I timed it to where I had the painfully easy classes left. I was taking safety ed.
Mm-hmm.
I had individual and dual sports, in which I was the
bowling.
only student in the class. So that was very interesting, going golfing and bowling and all of those things. But it was required for graduation.
Yeah.
So they couldn't drop it because it wouldn't be offered again till the following fall.
Right.
And then geography. I had the easiest semester, and 6 hours.
I only had 12 hours that last semester. I was working though too.
Was internship.
Yeah.
Too. So it was a very easy semester.
My part-time job at Circuit City.
Paid all the bills. It's wow.
$295 a month for rent, folks.
Yeah.
It's insane. That's
I would love to go back to
1990s dollars right there.
I would so love to go back to that. Wow.
Yeah. We had 1 6-inch drawer in our kitchen. You couldn't even put a silverware divider in it. You couldn't open the fridge and the stove at the same time.
So maybe I don't want that exact apartment.
Oh, okay.
But let's scale it up at that cost per square foot.
You can do that math if you want to and put those notes in the description.
Yeah.
But
so that would be nice if we could do that. So we graduated with degrees.
Yep. That happened.
So I can say that I have a degree. I'm only using part of it, currently, that I do have a minor in coaching.
Right.
And so I still use that a ton. Even
You've never stopped coaching.
Yeah.
You did immediately out of college. You went into actual coaching.
Yeah, I coached sports, and then I've applied that though into different areas.
Right.
I'm a natural coach for people in whatever their endeavor is.
Well, and you took a lot of postgraduate volunteer college level courses and that sort of on volunteering.
On volunteer
management.
management.
Volunteer management, yeah.
And handling what that looks like, because that is very different than managing employees.
Right.
And even though I don't have a business degree, I don't even have an art degree.
Right.
I have 24 hours, though, in humanities on my transcript. So that...
Shout out to Milligan.
Yeah. So I do have quite a bit of that kind of world built into my education, but it was
and I love
not
that's
that
a part of who
art.
we are.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we came from with this. And we moved back to Louisville after getting married. We both got to work together,
right?
Which was really cool. Not many couples work together.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't like we were starting a business then. We both taught at the same school.
Right.
And I was elementary PE and he was
middle school.
Yeah.
Seventh graders, man.
Yeah. So
I'm one of those people.
But my gym and his classroom were really close, so we had lunch together every day.
Yeah.
Got to drive to and from together. Our hours were the same, so that was really neat to get to do that.
Yeah.
Then, because it was a private school and we were making private school teacher salary, which
first year teacher private school is not a lot.
You don't make a whole lot.
No. Very emotionally fulfilling. I loved doing what I did, but it was tight.
I actually did not love what I was doing, and that really showed me that was not where I should be. I had the most perfect setup, and I just did not like that job at all.
That's totally fine.
And it's one of those I have to be in something that is fulfilling in me, or I just I can't bring myself to do it. I forced and but when we had our son, I wasn't making enough salary to cover daycare for him. So it kind of presented itself that
low income family.
Yeah, so I stayed home. You were working 2 jobs. That did not work well either.
No, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week. We had a newborn, and my wife was all alone with him at home. I was not getting to be a good dad or husband.
And so that was a rough time. And then you ended up leaving the school. And that was when you had your first church job.
Right.
Working in the nonprofit sector in that. Well, full
first
time.
Full time is going to actually pay the bills.
And
because I started working in churches when I was 18.
Yeah, but they were expecting a college kid to be working for them, not like an actual professional. You know, there's a difference in the expectation there, big time.
Yeah.
And so we moved out of Louisville for a little bit, out to little bedroom community, lived out there, and we had 3 kids. You know, by the time it was over, not that we had 3 more. We ended up with 3.
A total of 3.
Total of 3. They're 2 years apart. So there was a point where we had 4, 2, and new. And that was an adventure.
That is your job.
Yeah. And that last year, we were out there. I decided to get out of the house. I had been doing the craft fair circuit a little bit. And it was kind of like seeing behind the curtain on that in a lot of ways, and that people will have these beautiful dreams of going to craft fairs and, I've made these wonderful things and I'm going to make so much money. And then, you know, they sit there and they maybe sell 3 items.
They might cover their booth fee.
Yeah, so the people making the money on those are the people running the craft fairs, not the crafters at them typically. Now, there are the exception, but from what I saw, that was the main.
And we were some pretty solid shows. I mean, but it was just it's a hard existence.
Yeah. And so if an opportunity presented itself for me to then be at an art collaborative kind of studio where you rented space from them to have a spot there, and the rent wasn't much.
No.
And they had these beautiful dreams. It was an old bacon
That's it.
plant.
There
Melwood.
It is. Melwood
Art Center. And
it did not smell like bacon.
It didn't, but huge amount of square footage under roof.
Cavernous
it's
space.
Crazy
Huge.
how
so
much
big.
space is in this area. And the idea was incredible. But it kind of when I was there, it was like it had kind of stalled out before they got to see their dream accomplished.
Yeah.
And they were dealing with artists, which is its own can of worms, because they had this beautiful idea of a working collaborative. People are coming in their individual spaces, and it's open air idea, so you can see in, and you would see all these people creating and doing things. Most people who got a space there would show up for the first month regularly, and then you might see them once or twice again before their lease ran out the next year.
Right. Well, and people would come in and most artists don't work standard business hours.
No.
People create, some of them is first thing in the morning. Some people, they come in at 11 o'clock at night and they create overnight in that space. And
most of the people there, it was a side hustle. This wasn't their 9-to-5 job.
No.
Now, it was
One
great.
guy was living in his booth.
Yeah, that was its own thing that was not allowed. But
he did.
Then I learned a lot, though, while I was there. I started working with the other tenants who were showing up regularly. We kind of formed our own little group, which was really cool. We promoted an event together. And that was my first experience in actually bringing a group together and seeing what community could be. It was in the very early stages of social media, Facebook, and what that could be used. And that was our first Facebook event that we pushed, and we were, and it was so cool to see how this little event, and that we spent a whole $20 on.
Yep. Thanks to you guys at Hound Dog Press.
Hound Dog Press, we covered your costs because you printed up our invites for it. And I still have my invite from that event.
Really?
I saved it, yeah.
Oh, we need to frame that, dude.
And I love, because it was just so special to me that this was my idea and I saw it through. And that $20 tripled the amount of people that came through on one day.
Yeah.
And we actually saw fairly immediate results because it was the difference of, it took a month to get it together. Boom.
Right.
And beautiful Saturday. And so I learned that. Then we moved back to Louisville and we had some life changes where we made the decision that I had enough space in that house to move my studio home. Right. Which at the time was the necessary one. Do I think that helped my creativity? No.
No. You were isolated again.
I was isolated. creating an isolation will work for a little bit. Like you'll have this temporary boost because like you're super productive because like, oh, I'm not getting distracted. I'm able to do it.
I didn't have to drive to get over here.
And then all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but it's this gradual decrease then in what you're able to create when you're creating in isolation in a vacuum like that. But at the same time, my life was changing because that was when the kids were, Jeremiah was going to be in 2nd grade, Joel was entering kindergarten, Grace was still 2, getting ready to turn 3. And we made the decision to homeschool. And so that my life shifted at that point. And that
you had a full-time job.
Yeah, they needed my attention at that point. And it wasn't an easy decision, but what our options were at that time, the schools that they were going to be going to, because they were going to have to go to neighborhood schools because of when we were moving, the test scores were awful, was not going to be like super conducive for their success.
Right.
And we figured, well, we both had education backgrounds, so there's a good chance that we could do this, that we should be able to teach our children. And so we started school that year in July. And then we
just in case it was rough.
In case it was awful.
We gave ourselves some buffer time.
Yeah, they could go. I could still enroll them, and they weren't going to miss any school.
Right.
So we walked through that for 7 years.
Yeah, it worked great for us. Homeschooling is not for everybody, but it worked great for us.
And because of that time, I really learned what it was to be a lifelong learner. Because it's not as a homeschool mom, homeschool teacher that you know everything when you go in, but you have to learn it alongside them.
Right.
And I got to explore different things like in art. Like I really got a big grasp on art history through this time. And what learning that and learning some theory and learning so much and all that. And we were involved with co-ops so that the kids weren't in like isolation. They were far from that.
Right.
Our kids had a lot of social interaction. And that was a neat time. And that was a lot more of that fell on me. You were in a new job at that point.
Right.
And through that,
with increasing responsibility over time.
That job increased greatly in responsibility and put you basically at the head. So that was life for several years. But in that time, I started a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And you pushed me to do that. I'm not going to say that it was something that I was like seeking. He was pushing me to do it.
We started off experimenting on Periscope.
Yeah, so that I could get used to creating with a camera on me.
Doing this.
Yeah. Getting over the fear of messing up with a camera on you. And it's one of those that you just have to get used to that.
Right.
I'm not going to say that there's a magic formula other than keep doing it.
Learning not to care.
Yeah, just keep going.
In a good way.
And that was a really neat time because we had to work together on that one. You were the only one at that moment who had any video editing experience. Now, it was on iMovie. It's not like in fancy programs. Right. And so we started that channel literally with an iPhone 4 and iMovie.
Yeah.
And I look back at it and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Well, if you remember back in college, the files are long gone at this point. And I'm sure PowerPoint is just maxed out where it's not even a thing. But Andy and I had made a show opener that we were going to try and get on public access with back in college. And I had manipulated PowerPoint pretty much to its breaking point.
To do animation.
To do animations and to have a good TV intro and that sort of thing. So I've always messed around with that sort of stuff. But no, this was still new territory.
And as we were going through that, I'm still homeschooling and doing YouTube and heading up a nonprofit in Louisville, too, as a volunteer.
Right.
It was part of a national group, but working with that. And so that was a lot of responsibility.
How many counties were you in charge of?
7.
7 counties worth of volunteers.
Yeah. And it was a little overwhelming, but made it through. Then we made the choice to put the children in school. And that was a big decision to make.
The timing was right. We'd always said.
The timing was right, but financially it was a lot.
Right.
Because we were putting them in a private school, and it was a small school, which was great. It was like the perfect transition from being at home. Our daughter only had 8 in her class. Right. 4 girls, 4 boys.
It was a good first step.
And so it was a great transition because we didn't know what was going to come at that point. Because here we are, still living. We'd been in the same house for almost 8 years at this point. Yeah. That's a long time to live in one house. So we were very settled creating, doing everything. I had a beautiful studio.
Yeah.
That actually, I'm looking around this room that we're recording in, and my studio was bigger than this room.
Right.
So it's like, wow.
I wouldn't want to try to soundproof that room.
No, it had windows.
It was too big and had windows.
Oh, the windows were great though for natural light. I had incredible natural light in that room. And they went to school. I started creating more, and that's when like my YouTube channel, like that summer, I had my first spike, and that was really interesting to see what a spike. Now, for those of you who do not know, let me backtrack just a little bit. That YouTube channel is not like some beautiful vlog or like mainstream type channel.
No, it's very niche.
It is an ultra niche in which I honestly show people how to color in adult coloring books. It is that simple of a channel. And it's got a little over 6,000 subs. It's been monetized since day one. Now, in the early days of YouTube, and I'm going back early days, I'm meaning 2 years ago.
Earlier days.
In the earlier days of YouTube, you could monetize from the day like you started. Like if you were verified and they knew that you were a real person.
You're a real person.
But it meant that you had to look at this because you have to wait till you get $100 in your AdSense count before you get a check.
Right.
So I started doing the math, like, and watching as views came in. Now I'm getting like 9-10 views a day when we start. I mean, this is not much.
Right.
30 subs, all excited. Like it's actually like starting to do something. I remember when I got my first comment, it was like so exciting, like to get a comment, and
people
it was
actually
nice.
there.
And then I would do the math. And when I first did the math on like how long it was going to take to see my YouTube check at the rate I was going, it was 200 years.
Yay! Our grandchildren's
the
grandchildren.
People who are complaining that you have to wait till you get 100 or 1,000 subs, that's the kind of math you're looking at to get that $100 check.
It's not worth your time to even worry about it before that.
Focus on other things. Focus on growing that sub list and getting your brand established and who you are and what you're going to create, and focus on all of that. And then I had a video that for a 30 sub channel, and again, this is my first air quotes for this, went viral. Now, it did not actually go viral.
It went micro-viral.
But for somebody who had 30 subs, it was like it was
huge,
doing that.
Yeah.
And I remember like suddenly going from having like maybe 10 to 30 views in a day to 120 views in a day.
Yeah.
And that was, whoa.
This
is
nuts.
like,
this is crazy.
It was crazy. And this video was like getting views and was even like approaching 1,000 views. And
she went out and bought a Lamborghini?
No. My time to seeing a check went from, through that little transition, went from 200 years to a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a big jump.
I watched
if you think
that
about the
growth.
numbers, that's a big jump.
So I'm like, yes, I will see a check in 2 years if I keep this up.
Yeah.
Now, the amount of hours I'm putting in, you don't want to know what that pathetic pay rate would be.
Yeah.
Because it really is next to nothing.
Folks, remember, your time is worth money.
Yeah. And so kept creating, kept putting content out there. And then I had a video. That was in June that that first little jump happened.
Right.
Then in October, I had a second jump.
That was the big one.
That was the big one. That's when I suddenly went from, 200 views in 2 days to 5,000 views in 2 days. And that was a crazy quick rise. And I remember because I was just hopping on my analytics nonstop because it was like every time I checked, it was growing and it was growing and it was growing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how much is this going to grow?
You can't not watch at that point.
Yeah. And I got my first check.
Yeah. Right.
I got that first $100 check.
Woo.
And so
Thank you.
I had gotten an iPhone 6 in that transition. Then I got my first DSLR and got to record and was learning like, oh, this is really cool. And then as then that transition then started happening through that fall, your job was changing.
Right.
And we were hitting a point that we kind of knew we were going to be leaving Louisville. So at the same time this is happening, we're personally dealing in this other side. And so there was a lot of good and a lot of hard happening. but unrelated to each other.
Right. And we were building up. The kids were getting older, and we were getting to a point where we were saying, let's go have an adventure.
And we were blessed to be at the point financially that we could consider that.
Right.
That a cross-country move wasn't, could happen.
Wasn't absolutely insane.
And not that we had a ton of money. That is not what I'm saying at all.
No.
But we weren't paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
We had enough in savings that we could say, okay, if we need to live off of this for 6 months, we can.
Right.
That was where we were. And so we knew your job was going to be ending. Didn't have a date, but kind of knew that was going to happen.
I knew that what was going on there, it kind of run its course, and it was time.
We started looking, to start figuring out where do we want to go if we're going to have an adventure.
Oh my goodness!
And the world opened up.
Literally, we had people that wanted us to go work with refugees in Sicily,
which would have been super cool.
Yeah.
And we had Portland, we had Austin, we had a lot of cities that were options.
Right.
And North Carolina was an option at one point. We just had so many options. And as your job ended, and then we kind of are hitting a point that we need to make a decision.
Right.
Because we do need to start making some money, to pay rent, or not rent at the time, we had a mortgage. But
during that time, I was working at Best Buy.
Yeah. We needed to feed kids. We needed, And
it was a tide you over while you wait to sort of thing. It was not a long term.
And the only place that was still left in the running was San Diego.
Right.
So we're like, okay, guess we're going to San Diego.
Right.
And we made that decision, and we sold almost everything.
96% of what we now. Granted, at this point we've been married almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's been almost 2 years, so 18 years of marriage-ish.
We had some stuff. We had a lot of hand-me-downs.
You just have so much stuff. We had boxes we hadn't even opened in that house that we had to get rid of.
And we knew moving from Louisville, Kentucky to here, we were not going to have the same size place.
Oh, no.
Not in a long shot were we going to be in the same size.
2,600 square foot southern home does not exist.
And so our furniture wouldn't work. So it was why are we going to try to figure out how to move that furniture across country?
No.
At the cost that it is when there's IKEA.
Right.
In all honesty. We can go, even if we need to get something in between.
Right.
We can do that.
It's going to be okay.
And it'll make more sense. So we did a lot of yard sales. We donated a ton of stuff. And moved, loaded
There's a lot of refugees in Louisville sitting on our furniture.
Yeah.
I'm glad for that.
And we ended up moving with my Jeep, a U-Haul trailer.
A pull behind.
Yeah, just the
a small,
pull behind. Yeah. And a 1981 Chevy Jamboree.
That's an RV.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be like a blast of a road trip.
We found out we're not RV people.
The first day was. The first day went pretty well.
Went to St. Louis, went to the City Museum, had a good time.
And then the next day we get up, and
the tires blow.
Well, I'm going to go back just a little bit. So we had this great evening. Then we don't have a bathroom, and I have to get up and walk.
I mean, there is a bathroom in the RV, but it's just the whole idea of using the bathroom in the RV.
And but then having to walk, in your jammas.
Across the yard.
The shower was storing skateboards.
Skateboards, camp chairs, big things.
Yeah, we're in there. So it would be a lot of work to try to use the shower space. Yeah. And so while that seemed like this beautiful romantic idea, we also did not plan on the fact that the Chevy Jamboree could only go 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, and we'd intentionally planned a little over a week to drive across country, show the kids some cool stuff. We wanted to go to Roswell and the Grand Canyon and see a bunch of things.
We went to Amarillo, Oklahoma City. We had a lot of cool stuff.
Albuquerque.
Yeah, we saw Albuquerque. We actually liked Albuquerque a lot.
Yeah.
Compared to for cities. But because that only went that speed, our beautiful 8-hour days that we had planned for driving.
We'll drive for 8 hours. We'll be done. We'll chill out.
Suddenly turned into 12 to 14-hour drives.
Which is miserable.
Which means that you get up, you drive, and you park, and you're exhausted, and you're cranky, and you're living on fast food.
You learn to love each other at a much deeper level.
And so, everybody's just in a horrible mood.
The fun part, but we knew we were in the home stretch when we were heading to 29 Palms. We drove through the Mojave Desert, folks. And it was the end of July, beginning of August. It's 115 degrees. It's a dry heat, but it's 115 degrees, and we're in the RV, and there is no air conditioning.
No, not when it's
and
driving.
So the windows are down. When you're plugged in, it's great. It's like a meat locker. But when you're driving, there's nothing. And so we just had all the windows down and the good old crank windows, and we just kept drinking water the whole time. And 29 Palms at 98 degrees that night, watching Fantastic Beasts on the side of the building.
That was a really nice night.
That was a nice night. It felt good again.
We were just sitting, and we were able to relax at that location.
As a family.
And it had a shorter drive that day. And I think had all of the days kind of had that rhythm to it, it would have been a little bit better. We couldn't leave the U-Haul trailer wherever we parked.
No.
Because it didn't have the little wheel thing by the hitch.
The one we got didn't have it wasn't whole.
And so you couldn't leave it. So we had to pull that everywhere. And then we went through Joshua Tree and we came into San Diego. But when we got here, we didn't have an apartment lined up. We knew when we got here we'll land, get here, then we'll get that figured out.
And some awesome people here in town had secured a hotel for us for a week.
So we had a nice place to stay. Well, I said nice.
Yes, it was a place that was not the RV, and that's what mattered.
And that was nice. We had a bathroom. I will celebrate a bathroom.
Yep.
And a working mini fridge. The fridge in the RV did not work either.
Yeah.
And we found a place. It worked. It was nice, but we crammed 5 people into 2 bedrooms and teenagers.
And 850 square feet.
Yeah, it was not big. It was not fancy.
But we were thankful
It was clean.
Yeah.
There
was a pool.
Yeah.
Easy access to the trolley line for me to get to work.
And because we did move out here with just the one vehicle.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but we learned a lot about our family in that time. And I mean, just seeing how close we were.
Right.
We'd always done things together. No matter what, the kids were there with us. And I go back to my time at Melwood. Jeremiah would come with me. He was 6 at the time. And I was teaching him about business then.
Right.
He would come and sell waters on the special event nights.
Yeah, he would.
And I had him pay for the water out of his previous time's earnings. And then he got to keep what he made.
Right.
Everything he made. And so he was learning that I can put in this cost.
Been raising
put
entrepreneurs.
in this work. And then I can see a return on it.
Right.
And that's what I was just trying to show him, the basics, very basic. And I mean, he was buying bottles of water and selling them for 50 cents a piece.
So when we say the kids were always around, we are not. We are the opposite of helicopter parents.
Right.
We're not negligent, but we're the opposite. We desire to create independence for our children, and we want to stretch them and grow them.
And we got to let them see us being adults and get to feel the independence of, you can do this too. There's no reason you can't do this.
You don't have to wait till you're older.
Right.
No, do it now.
And so I'm hoping, that they are realizing that it's not a matter of you're going to be a valued member of society when you grow up. You are a valuable member of the society now.
There's a lot of becoming in life, but there are certain things you don't have to become. You are.
Now, going back to Louisville, while I was doing that YouTube channel, there was so much I had to learn. We talked about how you were doing the editing. I now do all of our editing.
Yep.
And I do it on Final Cut. It's what I learned.
And that's the point where it feels weird for me, because you're now doing something technical that I don't know how to do, because I've never used Final Cut, and I'm sitting here going, I need to learn how to use Final Cut.
I got my fancy MacBook Pro.
And Motion.
That can do it. Yeah, I can do all those things. And but along the way, I was taking notes as to what was difficult. What was hard on those? What do I wish I would have? Because it would have been great to have somebody who could either show me how to use the camera, or I could just come in and film and focus on what I was good at.
Right.
Not have to learn all of the side pieces too. And as I was taking those notes, I had the idea for a place where you could come in, rent equipment, and you could do it at a DIY level. I might not need somebody to work the camera for me because I know how to work a camera.
Right.
I might not need somebody to mix sound, or I may have my own camera. I'm just looking for room to record in that has the right backdrops, or I need matched up with somebody who can do this too. And so that's where the idea for the studio came from. And I really thought I was going to open it in Louisville.
Right.
I had an idea for that, but then as everything changed, Now we're in San Diego.
Right.
And I've got 3 teenagers that need to adjust. And so,
Life
I had
pops in again.
I had a year where I was making sure that everybody moved here in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And it was a hard year.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard.
I mean, you're literally leaving everything you've ever known behind. Friends, family, anything that was familiar is now gone, and you're starting completely over.
You don't even know where the grocery store is. You have to learn all of that.
Yeah.
And
when you do, it's the wrong grocery store.
Yeah. It doesn't feel right.
It's not my grocery store.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And and trying to make new friends and just feeling really lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing feels right.
Yeah.
It doesn't look right outside. It doesn't, nothing, everything's off.
Right.
And so a year before that was starting to be normal again. And in that time, though, I was still creating on my YouTube channel. I took a couple of breaks here and there.
Right.
Just because mental sanity and I needed space.
You have to build margin for yourself.
Because I was dealing with depression again through that time. And letting myself heal.
Right.
And giving myself space to heal when I needed to heal. And that's hard to do, and I'm not great at it. Even though I'm talking about it right now, I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect at that. And when it came time to start creating again and life started making space for that, started working around with the idea for opening the studio. Still didn't have a name for it. I thought maybe it would be an extension of Grace and Lottie's. That's my art channel's name. And it is now a media company separate from Beta Haus. Grace and Lottie's Media has my Grace and Lottie's channel and the Dailyist Show.
Which is our separate talk show that's more fun stuff.
And so I had those, there. And we didn't Dailyist actually came later. It came after Beta Haus had a name. And then we moved into San Diego. We were out in La Mesa. We actually got a house. We're renting it, but it's a normal size house.
Right.
3 bedrooms. Our kids are not all sharing a room.
No. And that was super important that our daughter gets some space.
And in that time, from even moving here to now, it hasn't at times seemed like the straightest of paths.
Nope.
Because you originally had a job out here, and then that turned out to not be the right long-term path.
Right.
And it got us here, though, and we totally feel like we are where we're supposed to be.
And I love being here.
Yeah.
No question.
And
0 regrets.
Our opportunities here are so much greater than they would have been in Louisville. I have made so many incredible contacts. In Louisville, I did not know another single YouTuber in person.
And here they are.
And here I know several. I know several podcasters I've met.
If we have to go up to the spaces in LA, we can. I mean, it's not unreachable.
Yeah, because YouTube came out with its spaces idea, but it's not designed for a small creator.
No.
I wanted a studio space that could be used by a small creator.
Right.
Who wants to experiment and try and figure out who they are.
And you have to already arrived to a point.
Yeah. To most YouTubers, the numbers that you have to get in there, that's like,
it seems insane.
I have arrived.
Yeah.
To hit 10,000 subs.
Yeah.
Oh my, yeah, like you're doing well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which in YouTube land, in the grand scheme, is still a very small creator at 10,000 now in these days. And as this idea grew and your things were coming to an end, and they'd come to an end, it hit at a great time because suddenly my idea for this studio went from kind of a slow pace to becoming a reality to like the accelerator was hit in such a way.
We put a brick on the gas pedal.
That suddenly it went from like, oh, I have legal done. Next I'm working on this step and then this step.
Yeah.
And because there were suddenly 2 of us, it was like, oh my word. It was like we went from idea working at the kitchen table to in a space in less than a month from you coming on. And it's been great. I mean, it really has
You're
been.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm so appreciative of what all you've done because I know where my strengths are.
Yeah.
And I'm great at ideas. I can come up with 100 ideas.
And I'm great at implementation.
Yeah, and I will stagnate on those ideas. And you saw me when we were both still working on separate things, sitting like, I'm still trying to get this business plan put together. I have to work on the business plan again today. And I'm like trudging my way through it and so slow because I still had so much in my head that had to get done too.
Right.
And because you've taken some of that stuff out, I have room to do the numbers, the plans, the ideas, the stuff. And that has been great. Like, I can come up with 100 blog post ideas. Maybe one will get written.
Right.
You are good about taking the ideas and then making them pretty.
Well, and I remember I had to, and you guys don't know this, I had to create content for a whole year at a shot. And so, like, not just one piece of content for a week, but like 3 pieces of content plus the production and presentation, all the key pieces that went along with. And I loved it. I mean, because that's the way my brain works. That's the way I'm wired, is to handle that sort of thing. And so taking content from an idea into reality, that's my wheelhouse.
And so while it seems like this path has been all kind of twist and turn, the other day I was thinking about it, in that we like to look at life in 2 dimensions.
Right.
And I have to wonder what happens when you look at life in 3 dimensions.
Okay.
You know, if you're going through life and you're winding, maybe it's that you're following the valley through and avoiding some mountains.
Sure.
I just hit my mic, sorry. I'm talking with my hands, those of you listening on the podcast and not seeing the video. I do that a lot. And looking back, while it may have seemed like at the time, where in the world am I going? I can't see anything. Maybe it was on the shortest path.
Right.
And I just didn't realize it at that time.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm holding to right now. I will let you know that, you know, in all of this, I really feel like I am where I'm supposed to be, that we have been given incredible people to work with.
We met some amazing people here in San Diego.
I am blown away after every meeting we have.
Yeah.
I am. And I'm humbled in that I get to think I get to work with these people.
Yeah. And then people that once we sit down and we share our heart and we kind of talk about what the studio's about and what our plan is, they, number one, they buy in.
Yeah, they want to partner with us.
They want to be part of it. Yeah. And they start trying to figure out ways that they can turn things around for us and be a help or serve or
see this grow.
Open up leads, and they want to see it go because they understand the value of it.
And that while we're one studio right now, and I love this little space.
Yeah. And it's just the first space. Though.
And in 5 years, this little space will hold an incredible place in our hearts.
Yeah.
It's going to grow.
Yeah.
I know it is. It's not a matter of when, if.
It's when.
Yeah, it's when and how fast do we want to go.
Right.
Because we want to work with people. We want to be there. We want to see others succeed, and that's what we're working towards. And we have a story, and this is only a little snippet of our story. You know, as long as it's been the past 43 minutes as we've told this story, it is a matter of it's only one part.
Right.
And how many other stories are there out there?
Oh, yeah.
Just waiting to be told.
Right.
And I want to hear those stories. I want to get them out there. I want these stories to be heard.
Yeah. And gathering stories in human existence is a time-tested, long-running exercise.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much value that comes from collecting stories and redistributing the stories because it's part of what we it's part of what we thrive on.
Yeah. And, you know, I learned in Melwood, you know, the beauty of being in a team and seeing how when everybody got out of their own individual spaces and started working together, what could be accomplished.
Oh, sure.
I've learned that in my YouTube life, that when I was trying to create on my own, it was really, really difficult. And once started reaching out, creating became a joy.
Right.
It became fun. It became something that I could thrive in. I could grow. I could see other people grow with me. And what that comes to is I love the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. Because, yeah, you can learn 100 things, but you're never going to master one.
Right.
And it's okay to, like, know a bunch of stuff, but I would love to say, I know this area, and I am going to go all in on this area because I can. And if you build a team, you get to do that. Right. You get to be the expert in what you are wired to be the expert in. If you're trying to manage everything, you're just going to be scatterbrained trying to manage this and this and this, because there's always going to be another piece of gear to know. There's always going to be another editing trick that you need to know. Software's always updating. You know, all of those things that you suddenly have to be on top of. That doesn't leave room for you to be on top of what your passion was in the first place. Right. And so I want you to have room to be able to do that. And so that's where that phrase comes into our lives here. You know, and maybe through our story and us getting to share that, you heard where we took risks. Right. Well, it was a risk moving cross country. It was a risk deciding to go all in and starting our own business.
Right.
You know,
we like to do hard things.
we could, you know, you could go work for somebody else and you have some stability, even though I've kind of learned that not even that world has a lot of stability.
Right.
And I mean, just look, BuzzFeed let go a bunch of people. Like all of these companies that you like think are big and established, you know, like they've made it.
Yeah.
No, there's still
a degree of uncertainty that comes with everything.
And so not being afraid to take that risk and saying, I'm going to step out. I'm going to try this. I am going to give it a go because I want to give it a go.
And you're not going to regret that.
Yeah. And I am so thankful that we have.
Yeah.
You know, even if this were to stop today, I would be thankful that we tried.
Absolutely.
And we took the risk.
Absolutely.
And that we went for it.
Yeah. What percentage of people become college athletes?
2%.
And what percentage of those people actually become pro athletes? Any idea?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's like 0.8.
0.8% of that 2%?
Those are probably really old numbers, but it's somewhere around in that.
And how many people take a business from an idea to a...
2%.
2%, yeah.
Actually, we'll open their small business idea.
Yeah, and that's something we may look at a little bit later is what, you know, pro athletes that once they retire, they wind up becoming entrepreneurs because they're wired that way.
Just FYI, humble brag, I was a college athlete.
I was not. Humble brag. But yeah, and so it's a unique pursuit, and it's one of those things later in life you don't want to say, well, I wish I would have tried.
No, I'm giving this.
It's like we're gonna get after it, and we want to encourage you guys to get after it because you can.
And we've involved the family with this.
Yeah.
You know, my kids are involved right now. They're my kids, our kids.
They are our children. It takes two to tango.
It is our children.
You did a lot more in the carrying process, but yeah.
And especially Jeremiah right now, he's the oldest. He is involved a lot.
He's hardwired to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's ready to go, and I hope that this just helps him learn.
Yeah.
And then Joel has some ideas, and Grace has some ideas too, and it's just neat getting to see them come. And if you go over to Dailyish, they've done some stuff with us there. They've been on camera. They each have their own different personalities, which are very different from each other, and they're a lot of fun.
It's so fun. Yeah.
And but yeah, they're great, and they'll be involved with this. I'm going to do another video, and it'll be a scripted video because I'm getting like B-roll for it that's going to tell the story of my family and business.
Oh yeah, goodness.
And so it's taken a little bit of work because I'm having to actually get somebody to go get the B-roll for me, so I don't have to fly to Kentucky. But
I need 5 minutes of footage. Let's fly.
I have people that can. I have a person who can do that, and I can trust them to do it well. And so that's what's really cool with all of it. So I'm looking forward to getting to tell that story, but it's going to be. I don't know when that video is going to come out, just because it's going to be a pretty video.
It'll
it's not going to be
happens,
a fast video. So. Yeah, you can be watching for that one. I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm geeking out a little bit right now as I'm telling you about it.
You've got some fun stories wrapped up in there. So,
I do.
Yeah.
And it will fill this one in a little bit more. But we wanted to give you the basic story about how Beta Haus has come to be. You know, and this really was just a snapshot. There's so much more.
And we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Not all at once. We can kind of break it down from here.
And as we talk to different people who have been involved with our journey, you know, too, that they'll be on the show. So you'll get more history with that, too. But I think that covers the basics of it. We're running up on our time, so I'm trying to be very mindful. We said we would be an hour and staying in that. So
that's totally fine. So I don't really have anything else to add at this point. We kind of covered everything. We got all the bullet points. How many bullet points? You have 8 bullet points. We went from 6 bullet points to 8 bullet points.
Well, because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
All right, that means next time we will have 14 bullet points.
Well, then we're really going to have to set a timer for each bullet point to make sure we get them. Our next one, though, it will be a week away because we're going to be in our week setup, which was the original.
Just to have once a week.
Once a week. Yeah. I wanted these first two to be close, so that's why they came out together in 1 week.
They needed to kind of piggyback each other. And
so I didn't want them to be standalone episodes. But from the next 2, though, we'll have guests, which I'm looking forward to getting to do with guests.
Yep.
So that's going to be neat to get to hear some other stories about starting out and what that has looked like for them. And then also these will be people that were involved with our business. So be watching with that. We have not done our selfie yet for this episode. We've got to do our selfie.
Yeah, but can I publish it again now, or do I have to wait? What's the...
we go ahead and say second episode down, because we are recording these. I'm a batch recorder.
That is the best way to record.
Yeah, I'm a batch. We need to make it a little different because it looks almost exactly the same.
All right.
How are we going to make this different?
Let's pull the mics in so we can see they're there.
Mics.
making mouth noises. I'm so sorry.
I was like, that was pretty funny. So there we go. There's our selfie in this.
We'll put that out there later.
We're having fun with that one, getting to watch those that we are posting as we are recording these.
Yep.
So if you are following us on social media, you will get to know that we're recording.
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Because you have to.
Yep.
Our 16-year-old, he's almost 17-year-old, is like, he is so not Facebook.
He's so anti-Facebook. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Anyway.
So hope you guys have a great day. If you're local here in San Diego and you want to get together and talk about taking those next steps, it's just get started at BetaHaus.Studio.
Yeah. In the house, it's H-A-U-S.
House.
Yeah. So Beta and House have the same number letters.
Yeah. But we would love to start that conversation with you, help you take that risk, taking that first step towards your journey of doing something new, doing something different. And we do believe you have something to say.
Oh, definitely. And we're asking you to choose to be heard.
That's right.
That's the next line.
Choose to be heard.
Choose to be heard.
Yeah. All righty.
So we'll see you next week.
Bye.